building AAA quality gaming and integrating fully blockchain mechanics such as NFTs and a crypto native economy and a governance token, but really taking that one step further and extending that to on-chain gaming logic. So abstracting mechanics of the game, building that on the blockchain, and then enabling this permissionless, decentralized third-party development and innovation around the ecosystem. The game itself is based in the year 2620, so it's a futuristic universe. There's three warring factions: the Mud, which is all of the human races; the Ooster, sentient android race; and then the Oni, which is a consortium of alien races. And the whole idea is territorial conquest, political domination, and space exploration. So let me pause there and open it up for maybe the next question.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say you kind of took question 1 and 2 away from me, but thanks for letting that flow. It's great to kind of really know more about your background and what got you started on this. And obviously, you gave us a quick snippet into what Star Atlas is, but let me dive a bit deeper into the game itself. So, I mean, the first obvious question is like, why did you decide to build something that is so like space based with spaceships and galactic wars and things like that? What was kind of the, I guess, inspiration behind that?
Yeah, and I want to give a lot of credit to our chief product officer here, Danny. He's the game director and art director and largely the visionary behind the core gaming product itself. I guess what I didn't mention in that intro is that we really see this massive opportunity for immersive virtual worlds, the so-called metaverse, to become an environment that people can persist within, not only from the perspective of gaming and entertainment and escapism, but this idea of integrating crypto in a genuine and a true sustainable circular economy as being a place where people can actually create a life for themselves. They can create earnings. They can participate in innovation and opportunity in the labor market in many different facets, not just strictly through gameplay. And so, but getting back to your question around how we came up with the idea, it started in 2020. Again, all of the co-founders have a pretty deep background in blockchain and crypto. And again, we've been involved in multiple companies in the space. So the first thing we identified was, this trend that was taking place in 2020, which was, really the flourishing of DeFi, but also the nascent stage of on-chain gaming or GameFi or blockchain gaming or play to earn, whatever you want to call it. However, kind of what we saw as being passionate gamers was this lack of really high quality gaming, if you will. It was pretty simplified mechanics, a lot of turn-based games and a lot of card style games, and nothing that really matched the potential that we believe was possible in attracting a mainstream audience, that traditional gamer, and those immersive cinematic gameplay experiences. And so, we made the choice of building in Unreal Engine 5 and selecting Solana as our layer 1 protocol because we felt that we could bring that traditional gaming experience, but with all of the benefits of a fully crypto integrated economy and true asset ownership. We're all big fans of massively multiplayer online games and that sense of character progression and leveling up, and also what Danny likes to call the sweaty gameplay, where you're just deeply engaged in an activity, and it gets the heart rate pumping, the adrenaline's flowing, the dopamine's releasing, and Danny is also a big Star Citizen fan, and a lot of people draw parallels to what we're doing and the way that Star Citizen was built. But I would kind of compare us to a combination of like EVE Online from the sophisticated economy standpoint, maybe Star Citizen just from the cinematic level of gameplay, although we're not going full space sim, and then something like Stellaris, which is really this isometric top-down game where it's mostly focused on strategy and fleet management, and we'll be bringing some of those same dynamics to Star Atlas as well. So it's a combination of all of those, our background in gaming, and just our passion for all things space and sci-fi, and this ability to explore unknown worlds, which we can't really do in physical reality, but in digital space we can.
No, thank you for that. I think it's definitely, there's a lot of potential to, I guess, try and do everything that you want to do with a game with such a setting. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. You talked to us about the inspiration behind it. Now let me ask in terms of the quality itself, right? So obviously, you've been around in the space for quite some time. You've seen games come and go. You've seen games, potentially come and not go yet. But you very specifically decided from the get-go that you were gonna, do something that was high quality, whether it's, the graphics or the quality of the gameplay or the lore or whatever. So why? I mean, the reason is obvious, but maybe for everyone listening in, like, why go that route of building on Unreal Engine 5, having high quality graphics, going that kind of extra mile or extra step of making a really high quality game rather than just I guess eat off of what everyone else was doing in the beginning and just like launching a staking protocol with a very basic mini game that's low quality, low risk, I would say, low expense. I want to kind of understand that because maybe it opens up eyes for a lot of people that are either trying to build, want to build, or even just like playing games that are currently out in the market.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of simply explain it as we are just building the game that we want to play. I mean, that's really the extent of it. We want to build an environment that's sustainable and kind of perpetual in a way. And I've described this on a lot of different Twitter Spaces or AMAs or interviews in the past. But what we genuinely believe to be building here is this digital economy centered around a gaming experience that can constantly evolve through time. And while Automata, which is the studio behind Star Atlas, that's our team, is responsible for and stewarding the initial development of this entire universe over time, and specifically referring back to that dynamic of on-chain mechanics, as well as this path to decentralization. Whereas through the DAO, the gaming product itself gets distributed out to the user base, not only through asset ownership but through ecosystem ownership. The potential and opportunity will exist for other developers, other studios, community members, co-creators to contribute to the future vision, the future evolution of Star Atlas itself. I've described this at times as kind of a new America moment where what we're building today is a strong foundation. Opportunity will exist because of that foundation. And then it is incumbent on the future individuals, the citizens, the participants to create whatever the future path of Star Atlas ultimately becomes. But this is not intended to be a gaming franchise that lasts for 10 to 20 years. It's intended to be an economy and an environment that can last potentially hundreds of years. Kind of a crazy vision and a crazy statement, but I believe that to be the true reality. And given the uprising of metaverse just really over the last year and a half, which we were arguably quite ahead of, launching in early 2021, so it's kind of before the announcement of Facebook converting to Meta, which really caused an explosion in the idea. But it's this persistent digital world that people can participate in, and there will be many different activities, and gaming is one of those activities. But social and workplace and commerce and retail, these are all other things that people will be doing inside this world that otherwise do not exist today. It's kind of like the next iteration of the internet with a more immersive digital environment surrounding you, right? So hop into your spaceship and go complete a mission, but while you're in transit, go fulfill your shopping list as well, and have those items delivered to your physical residence at the same time. So all of this stuff, by the way, is extremely long-term thinking. We're hyper-focused on building the gaming experience first and foremost, because we do see that as the catalyst for user adoption and user growth and society formation, if you will, right? It's like, how do we get the first 10 million and then 100 million users into Star Atlas, and then from there it becomes a gravity well of sorts. It becomes very attractive for other participants, not necessarily because they're even interested in gaming, but because there are people that are already present. And so that's the big picture.
Thanks for painting that picture for us. I mean, the next logical question is obviously in terms of patience, right? Because you're building something that I think, the space kind of in a bad way really got a lot of people to get used to, games coming out every single day, game announcements saying like, the alpha will be ready in a month, blah, blah, blah. With what you're trying to build, it's not really realistic. And so, with any good game in general, just in the traditional space, good games take time to build, right? We've been waiting on GTA 6 for like a decade now. And so I guess my next question is from a timeline perspective. Like, how do you manage to stay in touch with your community while there's no necessarily there's no game that's out yet, but there's just snippets and there's alpha footage and there's work in progress stuff? How do you manage to still build such a strong community and keep that line of communication open with them?
We've been extremely fortunate. One of the first things we released was just our white paper, which is pretty conventional in crypto, but it outlined really all of the core gameplay mechanics and, of course, the grand vision behind all of this. And it's probably no surprise, but there are many enthusiast gamers specifically out there who are interested in this type of concept. People are often critical of Star Citizen. I'll just reference them again, and this like very long development cycle that they've been building under, but they've had many successes and they have a large community and people are still passionate about what they're building at Star Citizen, even though it takes a long time. And so, not that we're replicating their model in any way. And I guess going back to your previous question, part of the reason for selecting Unreal Engine 5 is that we do believe that's actually going to lead to greater efficiency in the development process, not to mention some of the amazing technology that's coming out, as a result of that. Things like Nanite, which is the geometry engine and allows this pixel perfect design wherein you can actually see the cracks, you can model the cracks in the concrete and it's still playable at a high frame rate. And Lumen, which is real-time light mechanics and their MetaSounds engine. So all of these things that bring this truly immersive experience and cinematic quality and make you feel like you're really living in this world. But beyond that, the pace with which our developers are able to release new features in that is pretty impressive. And we're still scaling that up and creating coordination across the team. Again, given that we do operate fully remote, and we do leverage a lot of co-creation studios or co-development studios in our process. Building that machine and getting it to function properly at maximum efficiency takes some time. Going from a team of 4 people to 240 people over the course of a year and a half is a massive accomplishment in its own right. And then getting that to work cohesively in a fully remote state is obviously a challenge. But that's just explaining some of the challenges. Some of the benefits of, this are we essentially have a team that's operating 24 hours a day. We're working with some of the most talented individuals all over the world, regardless of whether they have experience in blockchain or not. Right? We have the specialists in game development. We have specialists on our team that are, have deep experience in engineering and blockchain mechanics and building out smart contracts and on-chain programs, and then all of the other, positions that are necessary to operate a successful company. But I guess the key point that I would make here is that this is intended to be an iterative process, whereas a traditional studio intentionally develops, for 7 years, or almost more conventionally now, closer to 10 years, to bring out these highest quality gaming experiences, and then releases that when they have a final product. We don't have the luxury of doing that, nor do we really have any intention or desire to do that. Our ambition is to build out these modules that get released periodically over time. And, I'll be the first to admit that we've certainly expected release dates at certain times and complications arise and we don't hit our target date when we wanted to get something out, but we continue to build. And the idea is, when we have the product that we believe is suitable for public release, that's when it goes out. And otherwise, we openly communicate about the process. Now, one of the benefits here is that we can release new content that continues to engage not only our existing user base and audience, but also over time expands into a broader and broader audience. And I could go on a long tangent here about, the different cohorts and individuals that we believe will be interested in this type of gaming experience, whether it be the crypto enthusiast or, the play to earn market or the traditional gamer. But the other benefit here is kind of multifaceted. Users for the first time get to experience and participate in the creation process. It's a peek behind the curtains. It's backstage access to a development process that people just historically have never seen before. Now that has its own complications because, well, I've on a previous Twitter space I mentioned Light and Magic, which is this docu-series on Disney Plus, and it goes through the history of Industrial Light and Magic, which was George Lucas's VFX studio created for the original Star Wars. What people don't understand is that what you see on screen, and maybe they do, but what you see on screen obviously has gone through excruciating revisions to get to the point where it is the thing that is most attractive to the widest audience. But it's all of the stuff that takes place before that leads to the final end product that is something that's beautiful and again attractive. Well, for the first time ever, people are getting to see how the sausage is made behind the scenes. And yes, it's kind of ugly at times, right? But you also get to participate in that process. You get to contribute to that process. You get to at least participate in feedback. And so maybe circling back again to your actual question is how do we keep people engaged? Well, it's demonstrating that progress is being made. It's showing the improvements, and it's ultimately releasing product, which we've done a substantial amount of over the last year and call it 8 months now. So what I think is really powerful here is the DAO and how people are going to participate in ownership of the ecosystem and contributing to the design of the ecosystem over time, although we keep pretty tight control over that in the near term so that we can actually deliver on this vision that we've outlined for everyone. But beyond that, we're here on Twitter Spaces. We do town halls every 3 weeks, which is a live kind of update from myself and some people on my team, and a live Q&A session directly in our Discord, and as well as hosting several events that we've done over the course of this year, and I'm sure we can get into later in this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a few points there that I want to kind of point out and maybe discuss a bit more. But let's start with the community stuff. So obviously, you guys have had quite an exciting couple of months. I think it's been a busy summer, you could say, for to say the least about what you guys are up to in Star Atlas. And I wanted to maybe highlight a few of those key events that maybe you guys have gone through or announced or encountered. I know the gameplay trailer was probably my favorite one because it was like, yes, finally, like I can know for a fact that I've been waiting for something that's going to be actually high quality. But I don't know, what else have you been up to? Maybe give us some insight into what happened over the past couple of months, Michael.
Well, it's very much a builder's market, as they say, right? I mean, fortunately, we've been through a lot of these market cycles in crypto, so it's not discouraging to us in any way to experience this high volatility environment that we operate in. But for us, timing was actually somewhat favorable just because we were deep in development anyway. So last year, to your point, we had a number of major releases with our NFT releases and NFT sales and marketplace launch, and a couple of white papers that came out, our original white paper and a full token and economic white paper, a couple of trailers, both our cinematic trailer, an in-studio trailer of one of our NFT assets, the Pierce X4. And this was released, and kind of filmed in Unreal Engine, and then also the Volant Studio trailer that came out at the tail end of last year, amongst a number of other successes. This year was largely a lot of planning and a lot of deep development of those core experiences that we've been working on. One of the big things that's up and coming that you mentioned is the Volant Studio showroom, and that's really imminently to be released. And this is the first Unreal Engine module that will be coming out, and it's primarily a social environment in the initial version, wherein a player is able to interact at scale with all of the NFT assets that they own. This is the first time we get to truly move one of the ships that you own from a 2D concept art environment, which is how they're largely viewable now, into the engine and enable you to run around your ship and explore new ships and explore this beautiful world, this cinematic world that we're developing out. In future iterations of this, and actually the not too distant future, some of the enhancements to come will be multiplayer social environments with voice chat and text chat, setting up your own instances of this server. So if you want a dedicated room for your guild or your community, or even just an open server that anyone can join, you'll be able to do that, as well as being able to directly interact with your ships. You can actually get inside of it. You can fly it around the map. You can navigate through an obstacle course. You can shoot down some targets. And really, for us, this Volant Studio showroom, which is kind of a hangar bay of sorts, was critical for us for a number of reasons. It developed out a lot of the fundamental content delivery pipelines that are necessary to ultimately create the full vision of Star Atlas. We had to go through this process of R&D and development to create, again, those pipelines that will allow us to build future versions of Star Atlas. But we also had an opportunity to turn that into an environment that players could engage in. And so this is kind of our Skunkworks test lab, if you will, and we get to add new mechanics and new features to this. And as we roll those out, then players have access to those new mechanics and those new features. But one of the other cool things that we have coming this year, and I guess one thing I should mention here, is we're not only building in Unreal Engine 5, we actually have a full team dedicated to an immersive web experience as well, building WebGL assets in Play Canvas, which is another GDE or game development engine built for the web. And so we have these really beautiful 3D assets that are lower polygon than what you'll experience in the showroom, but also providing greater accessibility to more people all over the world. It's probably not a surprise. Not everybody has access to a high-end gaming PC or machine that will largely be required to participate in the full cinematic version of Star Atlas, but you can get access to the economy and the same gameplay mechanics that integrate across the different environments by playing in the web, as well as expanding ourselves into an early stage mobile division internally as well. So we have mobile experience that's in early concept stage. And the idea is that whether you engage in the mobile experience or the web experience or the UE experience, you're still gaining access to the Star Atlas ecosystem and the Star Atlas economy.
No, thanks for sharing that, Michael. I want to maybe highlight one specific event as well, which is, funny enough, I don't think we mentioned this at the start of the space, but for everyone that's tuning in, you'll also have the opportunity to claim your very own Star Atlas OAT, which is an on-chain achievement token. So think POAPs. But essentially, we decided to put one together, obviously in celebration of doing this, and kind of rewarding everyone in the community. I won't dive into too much detail about what you could do with them yet, but the reason why I bring this up is, we chose the number of oats to give away to be 426. So I wanted to highlight that specifically with you, Michael. So could you tell us a bit more about that specific event that happened, I think, just a couple of weeks ago?
Definitely, and I failed to respond to that in that question, but over the course of this year, while we've been involved in development, we have hosted a number of events. So maybe before getting into the 426, we'll get into COPA, which was the Council of Peace Assembly. Now, this was an event that we hosted on Discord. It was an all-day event. It lasted something like 7 hours, almost 8 hours, and the whole idea there was to emphasize the importance of community and the importance of these guilds or DACs, as we call them, the decentralized autonomous corporations within Star Atlas, of which there are many. And what we had done was submitted an RFP of sorts for guilds to submit their own pitch deck, their presentations that represents how the guilds intend to function and operate and engage in Star Atlas. Now, that could be through gameplay and a specific type of gameplay, such as a manufacturing guild or a pirate guild, or somebody that's looking to operate across multiple factions, but also speaks to how they intend to support and help this ecosystem grow as well. So whether that's through the creation of informational materials and user onboarding benefits that they can bring, as well as thinking more long term about how they can actually create experiences themselves, because we operate in this decentralized space, how they can develop out their own experiences that ultimately expand this full vision of Star Atlas. And so we had some 39 guild submissions because of it was already an all-day event. We had to narrow that down to 15, and those 15 guilds got to present to the community at large. And one of their motivations was user recruiting. These guilds, these are economic structures. They want people in their guild operating with them so that they can be more effective in game. So that event was a huge success, and I'd say it really, timing wise, was fortuitous because, again, I don't want to overemphasize markets here. This is really more than just markets. But when sentiment was really down, we were actually able to create an event that inspired a lot of people and created a lot of excitement and kept people engaged, thinking about the long term and less about the short term. So that was an event that we kicked off in June, and then in July we hosted the first of our product launch events, and we call those 426 Live. And during that first event, we kicked off really 4 core products, and that was the official launch of the DAO platform. That's at govern.staratlas.com, as well as the first feature enhancement to that platform, which was the locking of Polis tokens. And locking of Polis tokens, our governance token, will enable not only governance of the ecosystem, but also enables the in-game political strategy elements, which will be coming at some point in the future, and then unlocking things like treasury management. And the DAO treasury of Star Atlas has already been accruing income through the recapture of various expenses within the Star Atlas economy. So back in December, we kicked off our first product, which is a pretty simplified on-chain gaming application, which allows for the essentially loaning of your ships out to your faction. The player manages a set of resources, and then the result of that, to the extent that the resources are maintained, is that the player will then earn Atlas. So we've already activated the play to earn economy and earnings potential of those NFTs while we're still early in game development. But in addition to the DAO and Polis locking and the treasury management functions, we also rolled out an entirely new marketplace program. This was pretty essential for us. Our original iteration of the marketplace was built entirely on Serum, which is the decentralized exchange protocol living on Solana. And while it's a high functioning protocol to utilize, in our case, specifically for the gaming application, and our desire to transition into more of an auction house style format for the marketplace, we had to kind of reinvent and re-engineer and re-architect that entire program. And so we built our own marketplace program from scratch and eliminated some of the friction that we were encountering with Serum, enhanced a lot of the UI on the marketplace to make it more usable and user-friendly. And so we rolled that out at the last 426 event. And then finally, the other major announcement was an affiliate program that we call StarPath. And this functions very much like a traditional referral program, wherein recruiting new players using your referral link allows you to earn what we call prosperity marks, and then those prosperity marks can be redeemed for a variety of in-game NFT assets. So if you're helping the community grow, you get rewarded with a currency, a token that you can then redeem for ships. Now, what makes this different from a traditional affiliate program is that this has been developed to live in Web3. Again, from the ground up, it was architected that way. So all of this integrates with a traditional wallet connect experience using your existing crypto wallet. So that was the past event. That was in July, and don't have a date to share right now, but we do have our next 426 Live event with a lot of major releases specifically centered around gaming coming up very soon.
Thanks for that, Michael. My next question was actually specifically about one of the things that you've raised multiple times now, which is the DAO, right? So we heard it a lot in the past. I think there's different arguments about what DAOs are supposed to function like, and are they actually good or bad, and so on and so forth. I want to maybe dive a bit deeper into the Star Atlas DAO and how does it actually operate, or what's its relation to the governance in Star Atlas, and how can I participate in that DAO?
In our case, there's very much this hierarchical structure behind Star Atlas that starts with the Panaculum DAO, or the Universal DAO, and that's the platform that we've launched to date. Now, this Universal DAO is intended to govern specifically ecosystem evolution. So thinking about, call it kind of the real world integration of Star Atlas, and through this governance structure, participants will be able to drive things like feature development in the future, or potentially modify the economics of the game to create greater balance. They'll be able to vote on integrations and partnerships, and as well as what I would argue is one of the most compelling reasons is, again, this idea of treasury management. Now, because there's this intrinsic taxation of sorts on the GDP of the Star Atlas economy, which recaptures value. It captures value from some of the players and through gaming activity, and delivers that to the DAO. Well, now there's this war chest of currency that can actually be used to continue to grow the game, and that might even mean employing or hiring an additional studio with those assets to build a separate experience, yet integrated experience, or furthering the development objectives that we've already outlined and help expedite the development of this product. Moving into the gaming aspect of this, there is this idea of political strategy and in-game DAOs, starting at the faction level. So there's the 3 factions again, and there will be governance systems in-game at each faction, as well as down to a regional and then local level. So if you're a DAC, for example, or a guild that's operating in a specific area of space, it might be prudent for you to establish your own local DAO and allow for the taxation in that region specifically, so that you can do things like defend your territory, perhaps purchase security services, which are in the form of NPCs that police the area around you and ensure that you're not being attacked by other outside forces. All of these kind of feed into as I said, this hierarchy of governance, kind of like a county, a city, a state, and federal government level. And that's kind of how this whole thing functions. So you can either use it externally to drive the ecosystem, to build the ecosystem, and grow it in the format that you think is most prudent, or you can use it specifically in gameplay to establish and secure your objectives.
Sorry, I was struggling to unmute there. Cool. So besides the DAO, let me now maybe just shift the conversation a bit, because I'm just being mindful of the time as well. In terms of what's coming next for Star Atlas, could you walk us through, I don't want to call it next steps, but essentially what can we look forward to in your timeline over the next couple of months? And obviously, my favorite question to ask people when they jump on Spaces is when game? So realistically speaking, when can we get access to something that maybe is potentially, relatively, in your opinion, close to what Star Atlas is going to look like as a game, a full-fledged game, that is. Whether it's, alpha, beta, I don't know what definition you want to drop on that one, but I'm really curious to see what's next in terms of your timelines and when can we actually get our hands on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a very popular question across the space. And again, one of the reasons why we release in this iterative format is so that there are new experiences that people can engage in. I won't share any timelines or dates specifically, but what I will say is that on the next 426 Live event, the initial Unreal Engine downloadable client will be released, and that is where people can access and experience this Volant Studio showroom. Again, the ability to directly interact with your NFT models and see them at scale in Engine. And it's pretty cool, by the way, being able to see not only the high fidelity of the assets, but looking at something like an extra small ship, which might be 3 meters in length, next to one of our Commander class ships, which can be 1 kilometer in length. So just a massive difference in scale of assets across the game. So we are super excited about this, and this is probably one of the most anticipated feature releases across the Star Atlas community to date. But in addition to that, we'll be rolling out some enhancements to the DAO platform itself. So we're adding a new function for the currency locking. Atlas is the in-game currency. Be able to lock that. This is kind of closely coupled with a discount to the marketplace fee structure, which is also being implemented in. And then it has other rewards associated with it. The ability to earn Polis as you're locking Atlas, which then brings those members of the community into the governance system itself. And in trying to think about how much I want to share here, because we do have
all the alpha, Michael. We want all the alpha.
Right. No, I mean, we do have some nice surprises at the 426 event. So I guess the last part that I will share here is that we have 2 other presentations. One of them is associated with sustainable governance, and Dan Park, who's our in-house general counsel, also a longtime gamer. He was one of the top-ranked World of Warcraft players, it's like all time, but also a very bright attorney and a guy that's very passionate about this idea of crypto and decentralization. So he'll be presenting this sustainable governance document and the full path to decentralization and what that looks like, of moving from the core development studio that is Automata today into more broad ecosystem development. And then we also have an SDK that we've been working on. We call it the Foundation Kit, and Foundation is a native Solana integration into Unreal Engine 5, and we'll be open sourcing this repository. But what this means is things like being able to sign transactions directly in Unreal Engine will now be possible. This is a feature that does not exist today, and it was actually a requirement for us to build this so that we could have a seamless and immersive gaming experience. The last thing you want to have to do is, while you're playing a game, is to alt tab out of that game into a browser, for example, to approve a transaction that needs to take place. And this is particularly important in the case of Star Atlas, where a lot of the mechanics, the actual game mechanics, live on chain as well. So, moving yourself around and managing inventory and crafting of certain items and managing resources on your ship and the way that damage is accounted for, all of these things live on the blockchain. And so there will be a requirement to sign transactions, although, quick caveat, we are working on many ways to improve the efficiency of that and seamlessness of that. But this in and of itself is an iterative process. But we'll be releasing this Foundation Kit to the world as well. And this, we think, is enormously beneficial to the Solana ecosystem, but it's also beneficial to Star Atlas in that we'll see a greater level of high quality game development in the blockchain space, in the crypto space, which is very, very important, just given there's this kind of like overarching skepticism of blockchain gaming, I would say, across the traditional gaming community. And it is incumbent on us to educate that user base on all of the benefits of crypto integration into games and why we're actually doing what we're doing. But really beyond that, it's also the idea, again, that people are going to be able to create tangential experiences to Star Atlas. And we specifically have a desire to motivate high quality environment development that can be integrated with Star Atlas. So the unlocking of this specific tool we think has many benefits. It's not something that we're looking to monetize. We're rather just open sourcing it and enabling this further co-creation going into the future. There's also a couple of other minor kind of sneak peeks and surprises that we'll be revealing during the next 426 Live event. So certainly would encourage everyone out here to join us for that when we formally announce it.
Thank you for that. Let me ask you this one specific question as well, and then we might start wrapping up. I'm not sure how much time you got, Michael, but I might open up the floor for some Q&A as well if we've got time. But in terms of, I'm asking this specifically because, we had our own chats on the side, and I know what you guys are kind of trying to do, which is not necessarily exactly the same. Let me try to phrase this as nicely as possible. So a lot of people tend to take a game that they think cannot compete in the traditional space and then just slap Web3 on it and hope that it sticks because, for previously the past history of quality in Web3 wasn't necessarily the best. And so they think like that's their chance, right? That's their rejuvenation spotlight kind of moment. With you guys, the actual Web3 integration is a lot more in depth, right? It's not just you've got a token and NFTs and it's all about ownership. There's like actual infrastructure behind it. I wanted you to just potentially highlight this really quickly. You don't have to spend too much time on it if you don't wish to, but I really want to kind of inspire a lot more people listening in to see the full use case of blockchain into a game and just think beyond the basic stuff we hear every single day, which is, oh, there's a token, we want players to earn, and oh yeah, it's NFTs, so you have a sense of ownership. There's a lot more to that. So wanted to kind of just highlight that really quickly with all the stuff you guys are doing on Solana, and then might open up the floor for some questions.
Yeah, sounds good. We can take it to the top of the hour. Let me start by emphasizing that our primary motivation is developing the highest tier gaming experience, which means it needs to be exciting, entertaining, fun. We need that sweaty gameplay, again, as Danny calls it. Without the fun, engaging gameplay experience, the addition of crypto is largely dysfunctional, I would say. So we start there. We start by making a very fun game that people would want to play regardless of whether crypto is involved or not. Now, with that said, I think this idea of blockchain in the technology stack is foundational to everything else that we're building in terms of a sustainable future surrounding the product. And it does come with many advantages and benefits for the player. These might be comments that people have heard a lot, but the idea of true asset ownership, that does not exist in the traditional game environment. When you play a game and you progress your character and you level up your character and you earn great items and great loot, there are inherent restrictions and prohibitions from being able to turn around and say sell those items or sell your character or earn gold in game that you can turn around and sell to another player. That is expressly prohibited in the terms and conditions through most studios, and that's specifically because that's part of their monetization stream, right? They want new players coming in and starting from scratch. They don't want you to be able to capture the value off of the time that you've spent in the game. And so that's the first big step is, well, okay, if you own an NFT, then you genuinely own that asset in an immutable form that lives on chain, and we can't change it, right? We can't delete that item from your inventory. It lives on the blockchain. So giving players the power to own what they've purchased and make the determination of what to do with that in the future is step one. Step two is this idea that through crypto native asset economy, we unlock the real potential of player earnings. This is the play to earn component. Now, what's very important about this, though, is the establishment of a sustainable economy, which means this cannot be just a single flow of capital to a player as a subsidy, and it needs to be tightly managed, creating all of that utility in the token sinks into the gaming economy such that we create a dynamic wherein there's like this recirculation of currency throughout the economy. This has been one of the big criticisms of economic models of a lot of the crypto games, just given a lack of sophistication in economic architecting, is that like and we saw this play out in a lot of the DeFi protocols as well. You can't just offer these enormous subsidies to players to bring people into the game without some future potential or use for that currency as well, because what that leads to is this perpetual decline in value and purchasing power of that unit of account. And so for us, we're trying to create and build a real economy here, wherein yes, you're earning, but you also have use cases for that currency that you're earning, and you also have motivations to save and retain that and spend that on other items going into the future. And then, of course, the governance, component of this, that it's a separate token specifically because we don't believe in marrying the idea of transactional currency with governance of the ecosystem. They're two different functions and have two different purposes, and the way that you interact with those tokens will be entirely unique. So those are kind of the big components of the economy, and where blockchain has the benefit for the gamer, where blockchain has a benefit for the ecosystem. And just to emphasize this again, because it's a major point, is the idea of building logic on blockchain. And I know I've said it a number of times already on this Twitter Spaces, but it's specifically that allows permissionless innovation surrounding what we do. And in so many ways, it's analogous to the creation of a layer one protocol in and of itself. The way that Solana or Ethereum attracts new users is by releasing primitives, by releasing development tools that other teams can use to build their own product that live on that protocol. And it was through this innovation, like through the creation of DeFi, which teams were able to build because there was a primitive tool set available to them, that actually led to an explosive growth in new users on both of those protocols. Now we're doing the same thing, except we're doing that specifically for gaming environments. And so this is where we see this massive long-term potential in ecosystem development around Star Atlas, is enabling and unlocking this potential of creativity from entrepreneurs from all over the world, right? So we get this collective development effort around an ecosystem, and this expands well beyond just a gaming application into a true economy and digital environment.
Thank you for highlighting that, Michael. I think it's important to understand that, the tech goes well beyond just the basics. There are a lot of use cases, and I think just to not dwell too much on it, but to highlight something, for example, instant payouts is not something that is common in the traditional esports space. I mention this a lot in most of the spaces that I go when I talk about blockchain gaming. I always say the simplest thing to think about is when you play it for an esports team and you win a tournament, it takes you ages to actually get the money. In the blockchain space, as soon as you win something, like, it's almost immediate payouts. We've seen that with, Undead Blocks and other games doing tournaments where on the spot, the tournament's over, you got the money, you can walk away. And so I think there's so many other doors that we could potentially open and explore throughout the space. So thanks for shedding some light there. I want to potentially ask if there's anyone else. I think, George, you've been bugging me for a while to ask a specific question, so I might let you lead. And if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to request and raise your hand. And then I think we'll wrap up just slightly before the hour. Sound good?
And Omar, if I may, just because you did make a really great point there about the payout structure, I guess just one final point to emphasize is that our ambition is to create a player-driven economy as well. So what we should seek to accomplish is to diminish the necessity of this emission curve of Atlas over time, and rather create a structure in which players are actually paying other players to continue to operate within the game. So that might mean that you as a player are most motivated by going out, exploring space, finding other players, and destroying their ships. However, the cost that you have, to operate fuel and food and repairing your ship and purchasing ammunition, you can either make the selection of horizontally integrating and crafting all of those items for yourself, which is a time constraint for you, or you can do the one thing that you really like to do, and then you pay other players for the items that are necessary, those resources that are necessary. And so we actually transition away from an inflation curve into, again, that more circular economy driven by player-to-player transactions instead of DAO to player emissions.
100%, which is the way to go to be sustainable. But thanks for that, Michael. Yeah, George, I think do you have a question?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear, man.
Perfect. So I really liked what you were describing earlier to do with the different regions and different guilds and all that having controls over the specific region. So my main question is, I've seen it in Life is Feudal, the MMO version, and a little bit in New World more recently, is if you aren't part of one of these bigger groups, and it can always come down to if there is a bigger group than yourself, if you're like a solo player or a small team, sometimes you can end up missing out on large parts of the game just because you aren't part of one of these larger things. Is there scope within the way this is going to play out within Star Atlas where you can not necessarily have to be part of one of these bigger entities and you can just be either by yourself or just with a couple of people and still get the full experience? Or is this something where you are going to need to become part of a guild to be able to survive in the world that is space?
It's a fantastic question, George. And I guess the first point I would make is that space in Star Atlas is intended to be vast. And one of the mechanics that I didn't discuss here was this idea of different security zones through Star Atlas. So starting with a low risk zone, which is where you spawn in and kind of learn how to play, and no PvP exists, and consequences are low, but earning potential is also commensurate with the amount of risk that you're taking. So lower on average. That expands out into a medium risk zone where there's non-permanent death PvP, and then also a high risk zone. And we've coined a term for this, which is play for keys, referring to cryptographic keys of your crypto assets. But the idea is that when you engage in that deep space combat, losing that engagement means that your asset would be permanently destroyed. It would actually be burned off chain. Now, this all happens through essentially escrow on-chain programs. And by the way, this is not implemented yet. This is very future looking, but the idea is that actually leads to highly engaging, very exciting gameplay with high consequences, but also where all of the most rare materials exist and the highest earnings potential exists. So again, pairing that risk versus reward formula or balancing that formula. Now, as an individual player, you can engage across any of those environments if you're interested in doing so. And the game will have missions or quests that you can complete and plenty of PvE content that you can engage in. With that said, though, my personal experience playing tens of thousands of hours of MMOs is that the social aspect is one of the most interesting components of this. And we do certainly believe that those conglomerates of sorts, the largest guilds, will be the most competitive in terms of efficiency simply because they're able to do a lot more. They have more people coordinating their time. And so naturally, as in the real world, that would lead to efficiencies of operations. But that's not to say that, depending on what your motivations are as a player, you can't have a good time in Star Atlas. There'll also be plenty of things you can do and plenty of content you can engage in that still creates a rewarding and fulfilling experience for you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds very Elite Dangerous-esque with the levels of difficulty. Thanks, man.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, Michael. I think I'm getting summoned, so I might have to wrap this up, Michael. But
Sure.
Before we finish things off, I wanted to just kind of give you a moment to wrap us up and maybe let us know what to look forward to. I mean, obviously we touched on that in a sec, but if there's anything else you want to let the community know, whether it's staying updated on future announcements or anything that you guys are cooking and you'd like a bit more attention or spotlight to, please feel free to go ahead. And I think I'll wrap things up with the tweet that we pinned as well, which is the OET that you guys can claim. So all you have to do is just go in there and directly set up your account, and you should be able to claim one of the 426 that are available. It'll be first come, first serve. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, Michael, floor is yours. Wrap us up, man. Give us an outro. I like doing these. It's like, this was great. Now give me an outro, Michael.
Yeah, really appreciate it, man. This was a great discussion, and appreciate you guys doing the OAT. I guess what I would just close with is that we do have an incredible community across Star Atlas right now. We have some 220 or 30,000 people in our Discord today, which is pretty amazing, again, given kind of state of the macro, but they're also extremely welcoming, and people are presently formulating their own strategies on how to play, even though we're in this very early stage. So big thank you to our existing community just for being so supportive and being along with us here on this path of development, but would highly encourage anyone out there that's interested in what we're doing at Star Atlas to join us on Discord and start engaging in some discussions and ask as many questions as you'd like, because everybody's incredibly helpful, very exciting future ahead for all of us. So with that, Omar, I guess the last thing is we do have the next 426 Live coming very soon. So hopefully we'll see a few of you on that as well. And just look forward to more of these in the future. Thanks very much, Omar.
100%, Michael. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, like Michael said, I think make sure you check out their socials. Obviously, they're always updating, whether it's the sick art, which I'm genuinely a fan of. I was just trying to pick and choose between the tweets to pin in this space, but you guys can always just stay updated on all the stuff that the guys are cooking behind the scenes. Again, like Michael said, highly suggest that you get into the Discord, start asking any questions that maybe you had in mind or maybe you think of over the next couple of days, and just get exposed to the Star Atlas ecosystem in general. I think this has been great, Michael. We definitely need to do more stuff moving forward. I think would love to get some PGG kind of representation in the game as well, whether it's as a guild or a faction or whatever it is, but it would be really exciting to kind of get full exposure to Star Atlas. So yeah, appreciate it. And thanks for making the time.